What's up, everybody? Welcome to Wellness Week Live. My name is Anthony, the DJ. Hey, don't forget, we're just two friends talking. We're not giving any medical or legal advice. Always check with healthcare professionals. Today, special guest, my friend and a woman who's very impressive. She's got a great organization called Alumni in Recovery, Nancy Labov, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
I got it right. I'm always bad with last names, but I got the first name, Nancy. So, Nancy, thank you for coming on Wellness Week Live. How are you?
Doing great. I like I said to you before, you just exude energy. So I'm just feeling very energetic right now.
Keep it going, girl. Okay, I like that. All right. Yeah. I'm never going to tell people to stop when they're kissing up to me. I know you're not kissing up, but now, by the way, Nancy, you brought up a good thing, and just now because I have obsessive compulsive disorder. So in my shows, it says DJ Anthony, below it says recovery. Now, God bless people in recovery. I am not in recovery, but the show's about recovery. So
I'm in recovery.
Right. God bless you. And that's why, by the way, that's why I want to have you on. So every one of my shows, the theme is below my name. So anyways, so we're going to talk about your recovery. But before I do that, Nancy, so what is Alumni in Recovery? Why that moniker?
Good question. So one day, about 2014, I was taking a run around my neighborhood where I live in northern Bergen County, and I was aware that I was about to bring in some people to speak to kids in an 8th grade middle school class, and the guidance counselor asked me if I would bring in someone from town because I brought her name up, and she said, "Oh, we'd love to have her back. Can you bring her in?" And when I was taking my run, because it was different from what I thought, I was going to bring women from Halfway House, which is Spring House for Women, which is in Bergen County and run by the county, and where I was a medical liaison there at the time. And I was going to bring these women from Spring House in, and and the counselor said, "No, bring in somebody that went to school here." So as I was running, I realized that I could begin to match people that live in the community that are in recovery, because loads of young people, thank God, a lot of young people were finding their way into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and in rehabs and halfway houses. And so I knew a huge portion of community that might be interested in going back to schools that they went to school at, alumni.
Okay. That's how that right. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I was wondering, as a way, well, how did she come to that moniker?
I know. It's a great question. And it just, so it's stuck. And we used to call ourselves AIR, but now we call ourselves A&R just because there's another organization that, calls themselves that. So but that was the main thing, because it was a peer-to-peer approach, and nobody can deliver a message through a story better than somebody that actually sat in your seat.
Got it. Very, very. That's apropos. Very smart. Yeah, and for the viewers, I'm associated with your organization, Alumni in Recovery, because of my late son that he passed away due to drugs, vaping in particular. So I do speak about my experience as a parent through your organization. Again, you guys do a great job. You have a very diverse and a wealth of different speakers to testify about their experiences, and it's an honor to be associated with you guys. And again, I don't want to make it about me; it's about your.
No, it's about us. There is no I in team.
There you go, girl.
It's a we program.
Right.
That's the thing about recovery. If you go through those 12 steps in recovery, it doesn't say I anywhere.
Right. It's all team. Absolutely.
We, our, there,
even in regular life, right? There's no I in team, whether you own a business, you're in a sport, you're a parent, whatever. It's all team effort, 100%. So now you already answered my second question, is why did you start it? And that was, again, you mentioned, going for a walk in your town, in your neighborhood, and what better to get than alumni. So let me ask you, what advice would you give your younger self about life? So what advice would you give your 15-year-old self before things went kind of haywire for you? Like, what would you tell the younger version of you about life and struggles? And it's a big loaded question, but 10 days.
That it's okay to speak words of honest need for what you're feeling. to other people, adults, safe adults out there, that it's okay to let them know what's going on inside.
Right. And especially men. I think men are very like, even to this day in modern times, right? Shut up, suck it up, don't be a sissy. Us guys, we rather die than go seek help or admit we have a problem. And not all guys, but seems to be a theme. So now, Nancy, what?
But women too. I'm
Oh
gonna
no! Again,
I'm just giving
I'm
it.
generalizing, but
No, I think it's important though at the same time because women internalize things as well.
right.
It's a typical role for a woman to internalize and just also not express your feelings. And I think that both genders have been kind of back in our day, especially, you and me, Anthony, we're about the same era.
You're younger than me, but go ahead. Yeah.
The same era, and that era is that it's just keep it to yourself.
Right.
Just you don't need to express it. Stop crying.
Especially addiction and mental health, because that's a scarlet letter. It's one thing if you say, hey, I broke my ankle, can you help me go shopping? Okay, but God forbid you say, hey, I have a problem with alcohol, a problem with pot, or a problem with cocaine, or I'm struggling with my anxiety or stress, my mental health. Like even today, it's still slowly getting better. But by the way,
we have a long way to go. We have a lot more. What you're doing and what Alumni in Recovery does is a great asset to us all because
100%.
we have the ability to listen, learn, but also get a narrative, get some
100%.
words to go with the thoughts and the feelings that you experience and you just didn't know how to put into words. It's like,
Right.
oh, you experienced that too?
Yeah.
And even just everything that we're going through in our nation with the fentanyl epidemic, opioid epidemic, mental health crisis, suicide, all the overdoses, all the alcoholism, all of that stems from a getting out of ourselves, right?
So that's my next question. So why do you think people drink alcohol and do drugs? Do you think it's just to escape, or is it other reasons? Like my theory is people do drugs. Alcohol's a drug. People do drugs to escape. What about like escape? Whatever, hurt, pain, boredom, escape. What's your read on that?
I absolutely. Addiction is an escapism. It's an ability to get out of self and to get out of one's mind and that's I was the biggest escape artist there was. I said I wanted to, it's like I think we all have some degree of it somewhere.
Of course, we all want to escape. Yeah, so you're leading into my next question. So now what was it for you? Alcohol, pot, what did you do that got you into it?
It's one of the reasons I wanted to really start this organization, besides the fact I saw the power of how young people could deliver this to kids in schools. I really could see that there was a process happening, a dynamic. What I felt when I was in 8th grade, the summer of 8th grade. In fact, we have a whole series we're offering right now for 8th grade schools, and hopefully it'll go on next year, called Safe Summer Good Choices, where our recovery members and mostly our recovery members, because it's for the peer-to-peer piece, to go in and speak to kids about, the choices that we may possibly make over summertime. And I had a lot of peer pressure. I didn't think I knew what that was going to be like, but I wanted to fit in so bad, Anthony. I was one of those type of kids that, let's see, I wasn't diagnosed back then because it was the 70s, but I do believe I had ADD, some kind of learning disability.
No one's God, right?
I couldn't process things the way I couldn't hear what the teachers were saying. I came from an alcoholic family system where there was a lot of chaos at my home growing up. I didn't have a great support system. I was a little chunky. I also, there was a little bit of sexual abuse in my history going back, and I'm sure that tied into some degrees that just were never addressed.
Yep.
And I needed friends. I wanted friends so bad. I was such an anxious, depressed kid that just didn't feel like I fit in, and nobody liked me, and couldn't do a cartwheel in school. None of that, nothing good, nothing good.
Right.
And sure enough, when it came time that summer, and I was with a group of people, they were smoking pot and drinking, and I never thought, I thought for sure I'd be the first person to say no
Right.
because of what it did to my family. I will never do this. But sure enough, I needed friends.
Right.
I didn't bat an eye. I was like, oh, well, they won't like me if I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think sometimes people feel like, oh, how could Nancy have a problem and
Right.
peer pressure, like peer, like you're a pretty girl, you're a handsome guy. Those people don't succumb to this, but people forget, just because you're a movie star or you're popular, you're a human being. We all have wants, desires, insecurities, and you can't judge a book by its cover. And again, not saying if you're popular you're going to do drugs, because Nancy, I probably told you, I was the homecoming king. I was captain of track and field. I was the most popular, the top of the food chain.
I was damn popular by the time I got out of high school, Anthony.
Well, but my thing is,
Yeah.
but I never drank. I never touched a drug. So just because someone is popular doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be doing drugs or whatever. Oh, and you have people, and Nancy, I know people who are the nerdy dweebs that had no friends. And I found out, what? You were smoking crack? Like, you just don't know. Drug abuse, mental health, alcohol, which is a drug, is so insidious, so prolific. It reaches into anyone and everyone. Oh, I shouldn't say everyone, but it can have the potential to, and it strikes people that you would never think. Like, so, and it doesn't strike people either. So like I said, people thought I was some party animal, that I did every drug on earth and this and that. When I tell people, I've never been drunk in my life. I've never been buzzed in my life. I've never touched a drug in my life. I blow people's minds, because, like, wait a second, you're a professional DJ. You were the homecoming kid. You never, but nope. But everyone's different.
Right.
And
I admire that about you. And my sons, I have two sons that never used a substance throughout their whole high school years, and barely when they got to college. And yeah,
right.
but the point being, I was like, look at that, and they just did that because that's the kind of kids they hung with, and it just wasn't something that they felt was necessarily part of them.
Yeah,
but you brought up a point, okay? And one of the first point you brought up was, the book, judging the book by its cover, right?
Yeah.
And we have such depth, each and every one of us.
Yeah.
And what I believe is beautiful, and what we developed through Alumni in Recovery, is the ability to hear people's stories. It's a real get up close and personal. And if we can go deep into someone else, we see the commonalities between ourselves, and we can develop that degree of compassion just by listening. And there's beauty in that. And we see the identities. We don't see the differences, but we see what's the commonality.
The string that holds us together.
And that's the antithesis of addiction, is connection.
Right. And when I lost my son, I said, how could that happen? Because we had a great, no family's perfect, but we had a very traditional, good household. Me and his mother, we never, myself and his mother, we never did drugs. We never drank. We went to church on Sunday. We worked. We came home. All this stuff. We raised him right. And this is why I say addiction, mental health, drugs. Nobody is potentially immune from it. My son was. You would never think that he would do something like that. And then like I said, there's people who I'm like, oh, they're totally a drug addict. And I find out they never did a drug. So it's the world, life is very, very, ironic and tricky and bends and twists and anyways, but yeah, no, your organization is so necessary. Now let me ask you, you touched on, and I was going to ask you this, but you already touched on it kind of. Did your family drink alcohol or do drugs? And you kind of alluded to it was yes, correct?
Yes, I have a long family history of alcohol use. There's some alcoholism. There's no doubt about it. It's not a secret. I don't want it to ever be a secret, but because there's no reason for it to ever be a secret. The thing is when I was young and in high school, I remember when I first was able to admit that my mother had like a drinking problem. I mean, out loud, I was hyperventilating.
Right.
And that's the insidiousness and the depth of addiction. It's so sneaky, and it's so pervasive that it creeps into all sorts of different, like it has tentacles, right? And it just can just ripple out and affect so many other people. And you don't even think it's affecting anybody. And maybe you don't even really have like an alcohol problem or a drug problem. Here's the thing. It's the attitudes that we have these days.
Oh,
It's around our attitudes around alcohol and marijuana, especially those two. And not to mention the Xanax and all the
prescription
pain pills and stuff like that doctors hand out a lot. They do. They hand it out.
Right. That's how the heroin epidemic got so big, because of the pain medications, and they sued, what was it, Purdue Pharma. Anyways, not to go down that road, but you mentioned the alcohol and the pot, and Nancy, you know this. I mean, they celebrate alcohol. It's on the cover of race cars. It's in billboards. It's hey, good times. And I tell people, I can't say it enough. Alcohol is classified as a poison by every scientist on earth. So why would you put poison in your cereal in the morning, but yet you're drinking beer and tequila and shots? It is a poison. There's nothing. The CDC says it. No amount of alcohol is safe. But yet, and again, I'm not like some Puritan, but okay, someone gets married, I'll raise a toast. But I realize this is garbage. I'm gonna it's not good. There's nothing good about it. And the other thing people like to cite, Nancy, is that wine is good for you. No, actually, there's no study. I just found this out last night.
Yeah.
When I was researching for our show, there's no study on earth that claims that there's no study on earth that claims that wine is good for you. There's no scientific evidence of that. Actually, the inverse. There's scientific evidence that wine is bad for you because it contains alcohol, and alcohol is a carcinogenic poison. So, we have, like you said, we have this mindset in this country and around the world that, especially in America, hey, alcohol's fine, and now pot is fine, and it's not fine. It's bad.
I too am not someone that is temperance movement person. I believe that we have a lack of mindfulness in our country. And that mindfulness allows us to constantly just not think about the choices that we're making and what we're putting into our bodies.
Right.
Now, alcohol, wine has been around since men have crushed grapes. I mean, yes. So I can see the benefit of maybe somebody, if they had some kind of stressful day, to have, a glass of wine. I'm not somebody that's absolutely against it. And even marijuana, I think that there's some people that suffer some great pain issues that maybe could benefit from it.
Of course, you have glaucoma, you have AIDS. Smoke marijuana, don't take prescription drugs. That's what I would say. But
I mean, there's some. I as a nurse, I'm a nurse, right. Anthony. I don't use substances like that. I can't use mind-altering substances. I'm aware. I am very aware that is not part of something that I can successfully do well. So it's best to just abstain from it all, right? So that's my makeup. It goes on to other things, even sugar. I have to be extremely careful with sugar these days, and breads. It's just the way I operate. I can get very munchy. And the thing is that now that marijuana is legal, and they've even declassified it down to, controlled substance 3 category, that we have that much more responsibility to learn to find ways to create mindfulness within ourselves. Now, however we get there, there could be some exercise involved. There could be some classes, some mentorships. There could be meditation circles, any type of way where we can learn to get in tune to ourselves instead of just pushing a medication on it.
100%. And I'm all for pills. If you need it, if you blow your leg off and you have to go to the hospital to get reattached, you don't want sepsis, you take a pill. But if I'm feeling a little bit down, listen, I have stress and anxiety like everybody else. And again, the CDC, you can go on their website, they say that exercise is 2 times more potent than any antidepressant you can take. That's simple exercise. No one's saying run a marathon, just go for a walk. I think, but we live in a culture, we just want to put everything on a charge card, pop a pill, put it off, don't have to deal with it, don't want to have any kind of pain at all. And I listen, I get it. I've had to go to therapy for my, anxiety and what do you call it, stress, and I'm a human being. But these pills come with a serious cost, and most of them don't work after about 3 months. And so, like you said, nutrition, exercise, getting a therapist, these things matter. And by the way, I'm going to really blow your mind here. I think, and again, this is coming from somebody who's never did a drug in his life, I think that all drugs should be legalized. I don't think you should be sitting in prison for 20 years because you have a cocaine habit. I think you need help. I think you should be forced to go get help, but doing 15 to 20 years in a prison for what? That's insane. Drug problem is a health problem. It's not a criminal problem. Now, if you're moving 50 tons of heroin, okay, you need some jail. But I mean, like, if you're just some poor son of a bitch that you got caught with some heroin in your pocket, and you need help. You don't need jail. Jail's not, we've tried that. It's not, and we're slowly getting there. Thank God they decriminalized marijuana. Thank God there was prohibition was, ended, and we can do, it's a health problem. You need help. You don't need prison. Anyways.
No, I think that's a very good point. I truly do. And I do also believe that we are at an era now where personal responsibility is of the utmost need. Personal responsibility, and what are we doing for others? What are we doing to show up to help better our world in a way that is of service, out of compassion and kindness, not like, look what they are doing. It's very important that we find ways to come together. And to be honest, I hate saying this, but there's the only good thing that has come from this opioid epidemic and fentanyl epidemic, in my opinion, is the ability to see the true nature of our need to come together as one. As one nation. Under whatever God you want to call it.
Right. Well,
but one nation, together, how this is the one thing that we can agree upon, because there is no discrimination about this disease process, or it's the only disease process that's preventable.
100%. Nobody has to die of a cocaine overdose. Or I lost a dear friend. She mixed cocaine with wine many years ago, and she's passed. A bright, beautiful woman, and was a lawyer, and it's just sad. And I never thought that. Anyways, but my point is, I agree with you. And so for you though, what was your turning point? Like, when did you say, okay, I gotta turn things around? Like,
this is a good one. I love this story.
Yeah.
So first of all, I had a dear close family member that was already in recovery for about 5 years, right? And I was in complete denial. I was a party girl. I was in my early 20s, having a great time out there, really. Woohoo! I was having fun. And so I could not see that there was a problem because of all this fanfare and fun that I thought that I was having. The one thing I did do was drive drunk. Oh, that's just great. So I didn't even see that as, that I need to stop drinking and driving. I couldn't just see past any of that, but I certainly did drive drunk. And I got pulled over one night. Thank God. Yeah. And it was the Boston Expressway. It was the Alston Brighton toll exit, and a state trooper pulled me over. And that really was the end of my drinking, pretty much. But I think what really, really helped was my person that I was really close to being there to show me the way. Because that person was able to give me some suggestions, like maybe you just might want to stop drinking altogether. I was like, what?
Right.
What are you kidding me? How am I going to get past the summer? How am I going to, what if I get married someday? How am I going to have a toast at a wedding? How am I going to get through that? And she said, why don't you take it a day at a time?
Right. Yeah.
And why don't, and so she gave me a couple of tools. And that was the beginning. That was the clear little thing that it was the perfect timing. So there's something to be said about people that are already in a situation that are sober and clean to be able to deliver a message to somebody else on how to do.
Yeah, we all need people 100%. It's funny you mentioned that about getting pulled over. And I often wonder too, I was telling somebody, you know, I think more people drive drunk than they realize, because, when you say drunk, people might think, oh, I'm vomiting on myself, I'm shit faced. But I would say even just driving buzzed or slightly buzzed, even you might even blow into the breathalyzer below the legal amount, but that doesn't mean that you're fully, cognizant and capable of driving a 2-ton vehicle at 70 miles an hour. It's just not. So yeah, it's very scary to think about how many people every weekend are driving, and they're not even drunk, but they shouldn't be driving.
Well, not even with alcohol. What's with marijuana? I can't even imagine. I mean, yeah, any substance. I used to work in the psych facilities. I worked addiction as a nurse, and I also worked in the psych facilities. And the amount of pills that we'd be giving out to people for all this, and then I'd see one of them driving. I'm like, what are they doing on the road?
Right.
I'm just saying, again, under all these medications, some people have like 8 different pills they take a day.
Right. Yeah, we didn't even talk about prescription drugs. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really scary, and I'm a firm believer in. I don't think. I think 8 out of 10 of our health problems we don't have to have. We could. I'm not even talking about alcohol now or drugs. I'm just saying, like, high blood pressure or whatever it is. Like, most of it is lifestyle, what we eat, what we drink, how much we don't exercise, how much we don't meditate. I mean, again, don't get me wrong.
No, how much we breathe, Anthony.
Oh, well, 100%.
How much do we get centered before we open ourselves up to the chaos of the day?
100%.
My husband, sorry about this, Alan, I'm throwing you under the bus. He has the TV on all night.
Okay, yeah.
All night. And in the morning he has it on. And I'm like, honey, what are you doing? Yeah. And then I'm like, you got to turn the commercials off. I can't listen to the commercials. And he doesn't get it. But I can't.
It's another form of what you consume, right? So if you're eating cheese doodles and soda, well, also what we listen to and what we watch can be junk food or can be health food, so to speak. But yeah, I mean,
it's imperative that we get more impeccable. Just social media, I can barely do it, Anthony.
Yeah.
I can barely do it because it's just too much information.
Yeah.
I just was listening to Brene Brown today talk, right? Very interesting woman. If you haven't listened to her, she does a lot on, psychosocial. So she's a I can't say the word. Sociologist by nature. But she said that this day and age, we are so maxed out on all the different issues going on in our world, to all the people that are in war zones, and just there's so much on just so much on the internet, protests, everything.
I stopped watching the news.
No, but she says that our human capacity neurologically is just not suited to take that all in.
Right. I agree.
No, that's why that personal responsibility, go back to that and tune in.
Yeah. And I'm not even talking about news, right? Just anything. If you're consuming whatever, the Kardashians and sports and stuff, like everything, right? We're bombarded and we're overwhelmed. And I agree with you. And I'm kind of guilty of that sometimes too. I got to put my phone down. I say, Anthony, put the phone down, and I got to go for a walk, got to decompress. And it's not good, right? It's another form of kind of junk food for our brains and souls. So in closing, let me ask you this. So how can people contact Alumni in Recovery?
Okay.
There you go. Scan it.
If anybody wants to take a little picture of this QR code, if you're watching on your phone. Then we have a website, which is www.alumniinrecovery.org.
Right.
And there's all sorts of information on our website. From if you want to get involved as a speaker, we have our guidelines on it, because everybody has to go through guidelines. We have events, different types of events that we do within the community for community togetherness and involvement. We have Recovery Day coming up, by the way, which is at Tallman Pool Club and Tallman State Park on September 7th, rain date September 8th. I know that's a long way off, but it's not that far away. And that's just a great opportunity for us to celebrate recovery. You don't just have to be in recovery yourself. It's the ability to come together, because it is a body, mind, spiritual disease process, and it can affect us all in one which way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and again, I want the viewers to know too. When we talk about recovery, I think we forget, and we kind of touched on this too, like, are we suffering from, like you said, being over inundated and watching, so much crap on television and social media? We have bad diets, we have bad relationships. That's a form of,
it can, if it's overdone, it's
drug, so to
addiction.
speak.
It can be
right,
a drug. You're right.
A type of, illnesses that we're consuming, bad stuff we're consuming, and it's not cocaine and crack and alcohol, but nonetheless, it's still not good for us. So if you're watching this and saying, well, what does this have to do with me? Well, I mean, again, how's your lifestyle, folks? I mean, like, we all, myself included, we always want to better ourselves. And even though I'm not, or a person watching might not be on cocaine or crack or whatever, but how is our life? Do we have good family connections, good friends? Do we have health? Are we, like you said, are we breathing? Are we eating right? Are we, drinking water? Are we exercising? So these are all things that come together.
What are we recovering from?
Correct.
Each and every day is a brand new day. And what are we going to bring to the new day?
Yes.
Instead of the old day? It's almost kind of like recovery into a new day. Each and every one of us have the ability to start over.
Yes.
And have a new day of wellness upon us. I mean, people could be recovering from surgeries. They could be recovering from illnesses. They could be recovering
bad relationships,
from
a bad job, whatever.
Recovering from cancer. They could be recovering from a bad relationship. A relationship gone wrong. They could be recovering from domestic violence. They could be recovering from some type of abusive thing. Yes. It goes on and on and on.
We all are in some kind of recovery, or have been, or will be. I mean, right. So this is not just about drugs. Obviously, it is alumni recovery, but it's more prolific than just that. I would say, just as a speaking about it. But so, in closing, what would you tell somebody that's struggling right now with addiction and depression? What would your words be to them? That's a young 20-something-year-old you.
Go get involved with a group that's doing good, a group that is helping others in some way. If you're not necessarily feeling that you're ready to go into AA or NA or whatever AA, there's so many different 12-step programs that there's other things that you can do, and find a way to be out of yourself and into helping others somehow. It's so imperative. It is so imperative.
Yeah, no, very sage advice. And I think along those lines too, the first stride is the longest. Admitting you have the problem, that's half the battle.
Yes.
And if you can do that, and there's an old saying, it might be in the Bible, I don't know, I'm not some religious Yahoo, but those who humble themselves shall be exalted. Those who exalt themselves shall be humbled. So if you can humble yourself for 10 seconds and make that call, or talk to a therapist, or a rabbi, or an imam, or a priest, or a pastor, or a friend, I need help, or be open, like just that admitting you have that problem.
Well, how about the golden rule? Do unto others as you do unto yourself.
Right.
Well, what are you doing to yourself?
What are you doing to yourself? Right. Exactly. So I mean, but no.
And what kind of thoughts even are you putting into your mind?
Oh,
are you clearing your thoughts? That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
But that is a good show. That is an important show.
I should do that. I don't have to do that. Yeah.
I'll come back. Let me come back.
We're all guilty of that. I know for me, that's one of my Achilles heels, that even though I'm overall a happy person and outgoing, there are moments that I keep on just being so hard on myself, and kind of being a Debbie Downer on myself. And I have to be careful of that, because what am I, what thoughts am I giving myself? This all affects our life, our happiness, our joy, our health, mind-body connection. So again, there's so much about health and wellness aside from drugs and alcohol that can give us a better life, or not so great. Anyways, but that's a good show topic, actually. So Nancy, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you making the time. Yeah, and don't forget, people, like and subscribe. And you were great, Nancy. Thank you
for everything you do, and thank you for also speaking for our organization. It's
my honor, my pleasure.
Taking pain and turning it into such major purpose Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And you guys are, like I said, Alumni Recovery is a great organization. I'm happy to be associated with it. And with that, folks, I'm going to sign us off in 5 seconds. 5, 4.
Recover our world. Recover our world, Anthony.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.